You might think that in order to get results for your clients that you need to seriously hone in on your masterful storytelling, your crazy sound design, and of course, the one part that we all love is our intense motion graphics. And then you'll see other editors talk about what's more important. But what if I told you you didn't need any of that stuff? What if I actually told you that I hardly edited a video? I lazily edited a video and it got me 2 million views for my clients. It was a 1 out of 10 and it got 40% retention and it was 36 minutes long. And what if after all of that, I told you that my client didn't fire me, he didn't scold me, he didn't hate me, he said, "This is great. I love it. The viewers love it." And on top of that, he offered to give me a pay rise. You'd probably be saying, Danny, or whoever you are, you're full of it, right? This isn't true. You need to have the best editing. You need to be super dialed in with your motion graphics. You need to know how to do this, that, and the other. But my friend, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you why, number one, it doesn't matter. And number two, how you can do exactly what I did. And I'm going to be breaking down this full video to show you what went well, what we did best, and what we're going to improve for next time. And on top of all of that, I'm going to give you all of the sneaky bit of tips and tricks that people don't actually know about. And instead, I'm just going to give it to you for free because I want to see editors doing things a bit differently and, cut yourself some slack because you do too much work for the effort that you've been putting in. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, just very quickly, before we actually get into the entire video, I do want to quickly say that this is a client that I worked with all the way from 2021 and 2022 and, some videos in 2023, 4, and then 2025. So this was an on and off client, but I've known him for years. So before you think of, finding this video to, go and comment about me or, to go and outreach to him or, try and pitch to him, just understand that I stopped working with him a while ago, but I had already spent 4 months training editors to go and work with him specifically. And I trained them on these techniques and I trained them on even more, data that would be, that would work with his content. So before you think of, outreaching and pitching to him, just understand that he's already got he's already got editors working for him and they're doing a brilliant job. This video should just be, a way for you to learn from, the mistakes that I made, the lessons that I learned, and the techniques that I used so that you could apply them to your clients rather than just trying to, pitch to the clients that I've worked with before. But anyways, let's get into the video. Now, first off, we're going to take a look at some of the proof, okay? Because, we need a bit of proof to understand that, this really is 36 minutes long. It really did get 2 million views and it really did have 40% retention. So we can see here, just about under 40%, over the 36-minute mark. So, rounding down with the minutes and rounding slightly up with the retention. And we can see there's a part here for, where about 4 or 5 minutes, it was just at 70% retention. And I'm going to show you how this works and why it did so well for so long, and then why it suddenly linearly dropped off. And this was something that I couldn't control. But again, we're going to get into that later. And you can see here, it did get a 1 out of 10, right? It doubled the previous video or the second best video out of the past 10. And all of these got about 1 million views at the end of it. And you can see here, 2.2 million views. You can see in that month, that was the best month he had throughout the year. And then you can see it was also the best in terms of subscribers. And then this is the timeline for it. So you can see, we can see all the different markers and, the versions that I went through. And we can see that there's only 6 layers or 7 layers of audio. So, there really isn't a lot of music or a lot of sound effects to it. But we are going to get into that at the end of the video. So there are 3 parts to this, this, I guess, I don't know what you call it, masterclass or this kind of what I did here. Right, we've got writing, we've got cutting, and then we've got these subtitles / music. And yeah, there is writing, okay? There is actually a portion of writing to this, and we're going to get into that right now. Now, I was posed with a problem off the bat. My client was going through something that a lot of creators do, and that was the fact that when he goes through recording his content, and he works in this niche where he catches predators. When everything, the entire video is based around the act of something rather than an idea, it is pretty difficult to make each video different, because it's usually, run by the same, same concepts, same ideas with the same people involved, running the same formula, questions, setup, the whole process is pretty much the same. And that can be a bit frustrating. And what was going on was he was kind of like evening out with his outliers, and they were kind of going in the negatives. And, at this point, he hadn't had a 1 million view video in a while. And the last one that he did was like, it was really good. And we needed to kind of pick up that momentum. And then we eventually did with this one that had a 2.7x outlier. And you can see now it's got like 2.5 million views. And also, YouTube videos aren't scripted. Some of them are, but, in this case, his isn't. They can be planned, they can be written, but ultimately, these events are always unplanned, right? Like, you can't decide what the predators are going to do in this case. The guys that he catches. So we needed a solution. And the solution was to write a narrative. Now, you're probably wondering, Danny, what the hell are you talking about? What is a narrative, right? And then this is where we're going to get into, what are narratives? How do we write them? How can I use them for my clients? And how do they actually benefit the video? Well, a narrative, put simply, is a way of showing a specific situation or process that matches a bigger goal or idea. So you take something and you show it in a certain way that has a specific reaction, or it matches a certain, goes for a certain goal, a certain objective. So every story, every video that you take on, all of these stories, they have a lot of different information and a lot of different events inside where a lot of different things happen. So we need to edit and tell the stories in a biased way that make the audience feel a specific way. More specifically to do with this kind of bigger goal or idea that we have. Now, if that sounds like kind of just yappa jargon to you, well then I'm going to go into some examples of narratives that are done in like documentaries, because documentaries are kind of just like YouTube, right? And I'm not talking about like, Patrick CC or like, like Sunny V2 or Internet Anarchist. I'm talking about like real documentaries, like, ones with a lot of production behind them. And they're both the same in the sense of, they have events that happened. And now, because these events aren't based on ideas, they aren't based on scripts, they aren't based on plans, they're just things that happened. You are just now documenting it in a way, and you are showing it in a way that you would rather it looked, right? And TV shows kind of have the same thing, like reality TV shows, but some of them nowadays more so have to actually fake things and write stories. So reality TV shows kind of don't count. It's more so documentaries that you want to look at. Now, in terms of biased narratives, we've got a few over here. The first one being The Last Dance, which is a documentary about the Chicago Bulls from the 90s, NBA team. And this released in 2020 around like COVID time. Now, the whole goal for this, right? The bigger goal or the idea here was, well, it's COVID time. We're not going to have a lot of sports. We, ESPN, being the guys who created this, needed a way to, create a bit of drama, create some kind of discussion about, the NBA, whilst people couldn't watch it because, it was locked down. Nobody was playing, right? So what they did was they covered the documentary of the Bulls, and they had about 1,000 hours of content. 1,000 hours. So if you ever like worry about having like 2 hours or 3 hours of footage, 1,000 hours is what they had. They were overwhelmed, and they had a really strict deadline. They had like a couple months to work on it, right? And the narrative that they went with to make the whole thing easier was, instead of talking about the Bulls, because that's such a huge idea, they decided to base it on Michael Jordan's success. And the reason that this was the case was because ESPN thought, do you know what? Let's make it about Michael Jordan, and let's make it about his dominant mentality so that the new generation, Gen Z and stuff, could learn more about Michael Jordan and have something to talk about and debate about whilst COVID was going on. So they thought, if we can't entertain them through the actual sport, what we're going to do is we're going to take up old footage, unseen footage that no one's ever seen before about Michael Jordan. And instead of having like all the modern generation have to listen to their uncle, at like family events, yap about Michael Jordan, let's actually show them how good he was. So then, this new generation could learn about Michael Jordan, and then there could be discussion created. And this documentary was great, like also really well edited. I highly recommend you go watch it, because it was really, really well done. The whole goal of this was not to show, the whole 1,000 hours, because there's one thing to cut out dead space. There's another thing to show everything. Like, we can show exciting parts and then take them out because they're not about Michael Jordan. Now, there's another one about this fella, and you may have heard of him somewhere. Now, the reason why I show this is because, like, this was one of the most famous stories ever told, right? Or just like, people learn and joke about this all the time. So it would kind of beg the question, why are there so many different documentaries about Hitler, right? Why would they talk about him so much? Because, again, remember, it's just one event that already happened. All of these documentaries just tell them in different ways to either, like, uncover things that people haven't heard about, or to portray Hitler as a certain thing, or this person as a certain thing, or this party as a certain thing, or talk about, like, how Hitler was so, I don't know, how he planned his takeover and stuff. So in the same way that you could take like any story and you can twist it in your own way, that is spinning a narrative. Just taking your bias into account and then, creating your own story by purposely taking out certain things and purposely leaving in certain things. Do you see what I mean now? It goes beyond just taking out dead space. So then now you kind of have to think, okay, well, what makes a good narrative? How can I create a narrative and make it actually good? Well, there's two parts to this that we can take into account, and there's steps that we can actually take as editors to make our clients' videos even better. And all we have to do is just take a look at these two things: audience and story. So when it comes to audience, we want to think about, okay, well, number one, who watches your clients' videos? Like, how old are they? Are they mostly male, mostly female? What are they interested in? What other creators do they watch? Do they watch like the niche competitors? What do they like? What do they, come to watch for? What do they get out of these videos, right? Because a lot of clients do things differently. Like, YouTubers do things differently. Some, have more personality and people come to watch the personality. Some have more spectacle, so they come for the spectacle. Some have more knowledge, so they go for the knowledge, right? Like, what's unique about your client? And, a lot of the time your client might not be able to answer this, but we're heading into a year that is going to be very based around kind of imprinting your brand as a YouTuber. So it's going to be pretty important to do this, to be able to get this down. And if you can't find anything unique about your client, or if they can't, then you move over to the story, right? So you want to think about, well, who's in this story? What's the goal in this video? What is frequently, like, what's talked about most often? Is there like a specific topic? Is there a specific person that keeps getting brought up? What is done frequently? Are people like constantly arguing, talking over each other? Are they throwing fists? Like, what is going on? What big things happen? What are some things that really stick out to you, right? Like, perhaps they could say something outrageous that can be brought up and that can be used to spin a certain story. We want to look out for these things because this eventually helps us to create something that can be taken completely differently. Kind of like just taking clips out of context. It's the same thing. You're spinning a narrative. So then now you're probably thinking, okay, well then how can I do this? How can I use this to make a good narrative? Well, first of all, with the audience, we want to research the audience, right? This can go as shallow as just look at the comment section. So what I did for my client was, I kind of went into the Discord, because he has a Discord, and I saw what they were talking about. I saw the kind of people that were in there. I also looked in the comment section. Like, I paid for his locals. He has this link where he shows like unseen footage and Extra and BTS, and I went to go see his core audience. Like, who's really, because if people are willing to pay monthly for something that he releases, that must be his true fans. And then I went in there. I went to go see who was in there, like who engages the most, who, what are they like? Again, and then just kind of go through this checkbox with them. So on top of the locals, we've got the Discord, we've got the comment section. Also you can just look at the channelytics. Now this is kind of the last thing. Like, this is from first things to do to last things to do, to be honest. Because the problem with analytics on YouTube is that if you're editing for a client whose audience is mostly made for kids, you can go to their analytics and then it'll say something like, my audience is mostly like 40 or 50-year-olds, or probably not 50-year-olds, but like 30 to 40-year-olds. And then you'll take that as like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know like 40-year-olds would watch this kind of content. But it's not. It's the 40-year-olds' kids on their devices watching it. So, like, I don't have a kid, but I'm 20. I could give my nephew my phone and say, yeah, go watch YouTube. And then he'll watch on my account that's considered 21 or 25 or, 20, whatever like the age like bracket is that YouTube shows. Like, I think it's 18 to 24. So it'll take that and then it'll say, okay, well, this mid-20s person just watched your video. I'm not mid-20s, I don't know why I said that, but it'll say that. But in truth, that was just my Google accounts. Like, my nephew, who's a lot younger than me, is watching this, right? So that's why I would look at Channelytics last, and that's why I would go to the comment section first. Because you can just tell by the comment section how old some people may be. Like, a lot of the boomers will just state their age for some reason. And then a lot of the younger, like, people who are between, like, 5 years old and 10 years old will just comment, like, love heart emojis and stuff. Or, they'll have the occasional, this is how many number of fans Speed has. This is how many, I don't know, whatever. You get the idea. Once you've researched your audience and you know who's watching these videos, you then want to start going into the story and you want to start scrubbing the story. Now what you want to do is you want to scrub through the footage without bias. And don't watch the whole like footage on 2x speed or something. Like, don't like double press L on your keyboard. You just want to fully watch it, and you want to pick up different audio cues. You want to pick up different conversations. You want to pick up what's being said. You want to look at how people, like, you want to look at different character beats and character micro beats. Do they start confronting them at times? Do they start like, clenching their hands in a fist because they want to start fighting? Like, that's something that people will pick up on. And, my audience is roughly like my age, perhaps older, and they can definitely pick up on like micro beats. They can definitely pick up on this kind of stuff. So for me, it was very blessed to have such a flexible, like series of different, like decisions, because I knew that they would understand that. Because if I could understand that, so would they. If I was editing for younger audience, it would be pretty difficult. And older audiences as well. Like, I'm not sure how good their eye for detail is, but I'd know that my generation can pick up on the same things that I'm watching, if you know what I mean. So what you want to do is you want to fully scrub the footage, and I don't care how long it is, because this video, although it's 36 minutes rendered, it was about like 12 hours of footage, right? So I had to go through 12 hours of footage in order to get this result. So scrub it, watch it, learn, okay? Start writing things down if you must. So you want to look for who's inside, who's in the video. You want to look for what happens, right? See the storyline, because what we can do is we can start taking different actions and then just completely like swapping the whole timeline to create a different story, right? So there's going to be like points. I don't know if I can find it, but if we go to the timeline, like some of the green stuff we can see is over here, but it's also like over here. We can see some of the red stuff over here, but also over here. A lot of like the purple and the blue stuff would be changed as well. Some of the gold stuff is here, but also here and here, So I would just swap the timeline completely, and you can probably see this, and you can tell because, the Predator's sometimes slouching on the sofa, and sometimes he's standing up, slouching and standing up, and it's just completely swapped around because I want to portray a certain narrative. I want to have a kind of goal here where in one act, he behaves like this. In the other act, he behaves like this. And then the final act, he behaves like this. And I think for this video, it was so annoying in the first act, fake depressed in the second act, and then like defeated in the third act, right? Like the whole point of the first act in a, you know, in a video or a movie is like, we learn about who these people are and what they're like. So I thought, okay, well, you know, I've got my audience, you know, or sorry, his audience, I guess. I know that they are mostly female, and they are, again, maybe around like 23, 24, maybe slightly younger. They probably watch this because it's really real, and it is the antithesis of TikTok content. It is real stuff happening, like actual kind of deep topics being talked about, like a lot of sexual assault, a lot of creepy fucking old guys. This is real life situation. Like, these aren't jokes. So I'd know that the editing would have to be kind of unedited as well. I didn't want to have like pop-ins or anything appropriate. I wanted it to feel as like seriously as raw as it possibly could be. And I knew that, like, as I saw in a lot of these comments, a lot of these people, like these, you know, there would be these women commenting, talking about how they've you know, they've had experiences with sexual assault, and they were really glad that my client was making videos on this, because it made them feel like, okay, someone's actually, you know, caring, someone's making a difference. So I was thinking, okay, well, it's obvious that these people enjoy it because this is like a good act, and they've had experiences like this before. And I think the idea of already setting off the video at a good, like a clear power difference between my client and the predator being down here it's like I'd be giving them the world, which is maybe a bit over the top. For example, this is the predator. You can see he's completely defeated. My client and the rest of the guys who are catching, and then the predator, right? The idea of these three mocking him, bullying him, and the idea of him being annoying would, in a sense, give them power. They feel like by watching this guy being taken down, and by this guy off the bat just being so unlikable, like, gives them power and gives them reason to keep watching. So we started off the video like really, really, really well. So I had already known, okay, well, and this was the workflow, by the way. So storyboarding with my 3-act storyboards. You know, rough cuts, just cutting out the dead space, the unnecessary stuff. And also, like, then I'd move on to the narrative cut. So this is when I'd have all the good stuff, but I would purposely take out some of the good stuff to portray my narrative, right? I would purposely leave some of the, like, there was some good stuff in there that I didn't want to include because I wanted it to look a certain way. So for example, whilst the predator was being considered annoying, fake, depressed, and defeated, for like the first 2 acts, I made Gideon seem jokey and a bully, right? And bully in a good way, because, you know, the guy's a predator. And by Gideon being the bully here, I'm feeding into the idea of the average viewer getting their power back, getting their kind of Gideon. I feel like Gideon's standing up for me, and I like this. And Gideon says like some pretty scary stuff, bro. I'm not gonna lie. And that was included in the second act. And then we went back to jokey. And this was what it was. It was like, you know, he was defeated and he was jokey, and that made the third act, despite not a lot of people getting to the end, this made the third act really good, in my opinion. I made a video on this where I broke down like another video, but this is how it looks. So you can do it digitally, but I like to do my stuff, you know, like in person, where I can actually write it down. And then this is just me, like, just scrubbing the footage, and then this is me like writing stuff down, but also kind of like explaining it. So I would go through my rough cut, then narrative cut to take out, you know, certain parts that I didn't really care for, and then, you know, variation cuts, which is me going through different like versions to see what flow of sequences works best, or scenes in a sense. Like if I put this scene here, because it's not entirely linear. It's not like I'm cutting from like the usual videos where you just kind of cut from start to finish. I had like multi-POV, and this was just them like mostly mocking him the whole time. So it didn't really matter the order of things. I could kind of play around with it, and I could move things in a certain way. Kind of like what I was mentioning earlier with the, you know, putting red here, but also here, and then putting gold here, but also here and here. Like, I could play with it however I wanted. So we've kind of covered this already. You know, mostly Gen Z, you know, they want edge and drama. They don't come for the editing, but they come for the people. Mostly female audience and experience with sexual assault. So that means, you know, this is something that I can use for their benefit. This makes me like seem like I'm trying to be some kind of hero. I'm really not trying to big it that much. It's just the idea that this video turned out much better, just because of knowing the audience. Anyways, moving on. So what is the narrative / story? Well, our predator's name is called Yuli. The guy was a total bum, jobless, predator. He borrowed money from his mum, or I think stole money from his mum in order to get to the location to meet the, you know, the decoy. He has a small frame, so he's quite skinny, and, you know, he's got a bit of a loser mentality, like you can hear it the whole time. He was very annoying, he complained a lot, he made a lot of excuses, and he used depression as a tool to get him out of trouble. Which this was also something that I you know, a lot of people in the Discord were talking about, and also in the comments. So for example, this was the kind of the comments. And in case you think that this is like bullshit, we have his most popular video with 4.9 million views, right? And it has 4,600 comments. Then we have this video with less than half, right? So like about 2.7 million views less, but it still has like more, like over 200 comments more. And then these were like all the comments, or like most of the comments that I could find, or the ones that I could fit into one screen, that were talking about exactly what I kind of planned in the narrative, right? Annoying, fake, depressed, and defeated. Like, this was exactly what people were pinpointing, because every time he came off as like a good guy, like he was saying some stuff that was a bit of a sub story. He was giving like some logic in there. He was like seeming like a relatively normal person. And I just cut all of that out because I wanted to portray this exact narrative. You know, annoying individual, gotta be the most annoying one yet. The way he talks is really annoying, depressed human being, mental illness. So you can see, you know, people talking about how they've had mental health issues, and, you know, him mocking it is really annoying. So annoying, Yapatron doesn't stop yapping, annoying, yapping, annoying. So we can definitely see that it worked out. And then as for this, now this video had like about 80% opening retention, which was, you know, not bad. Like, I've definitely seen worse at a scale of 2 million. And then this is like the 30-second mark, and then this is about like the 4-minute mark, right? So about 4 minutes in, we had about roughly 68 to 70% retention, which is really good. But the problem with that is that it just went down linearly. And you're probably thinking like, Danny, if you're such an editing retention genius, why couldn't you get this video to like 70% retention? Well, the problem with this is that we need to remember, what is the goal here? The goal here is to catch the guy. Like, the whole premise of this is that we catch him, and we can see the thumbnail is that we caught him, and it's at nighttime, so it looks like it must have been one hell of a journey to catch this guy. But the issue is that this is when they caught him. They caught him off the bat. And I kind of brought this up with my client. I was like, dude, we've got to kind of spin it in a way where it took longer to catch him. But I mean, there was nothing I could do with the editing. This was the best that I could do. And also production was just really difficult. And there's a lot of stuff to, you know, come into play. There's a lot of different variables, a lot of employees to think about. And that would just make things so much harder. So then once the goal has been completed, there's no motive for the viewers to keep watching. There's no reason to keep going. Why would you once you got what you came for? So then it just linearly went down, and I had to basically do as much as I can to get them to keep watching. And for a 36-minute video, I think this was pretty okay. You know, 40% retention is pretty good. Usually in this case, it would be about like 20% or something. I've had like videos for 1 hour on this channel, and obviously they're not really well edited, but they'll still have like, you know, like 19% retention or something. So yeah, like 70% retention, held 4 minutes in, linear drops down because there's just no reason to keep watching. But as from what we can see, like this kind of flat line of, you know, retention. This is what you kind of want throughout the entire video. But once the goal has been achieved, there's no point in keep watching. You want to have your achievement and goal at the end of the video, because then that's how you get, you know, that kind of flatness. Now, we've covered so far the writing, you know, how to properly plan and think this through, and then how to take that writing into action, how to take your narrative into play, how to really kind of get in contact with your audience. Now, finally, we're going to be learning about subtitles and music. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this the last one? And also, you said there was no music. There was like a bit of music. And the whole premise of this isn't to talk about how I use the music and, you know, how good the music and sound design was, because it was honestly not all that, right? The whole premise of this was to see how much I could get, you know, how much of the return I could maximize by doing the bare minimum. And I have this technique that I talk about where I leave out and I reduce as much as possible, as much of the music as possible, as much of the subtitles as possible, and as much of these sound effects, and like even just using adjustment layers and just zooms, I use them as little as possible to enhance jokes, to enhance punchlines, to enhance story beats. And it is going to be revealed here, just 2 videos. So I've already recorded 2 videos like this before. It's like roughly 15 minutes long. And I give you some examples and some principles of reducing your usage of subtitles and music. And I want you to learn these lessons, and I want you to learn how they work and why they work. And then what I want you to do is, the next time a client tells you to use more subtitles or more music, I want you to purposely follow these steps and follow these principles so that you can present to them, hey, listen, this is why I use less, and this is why it works better this way. And then I guarantee you they're going to be like, wow, great idea. Like, where do you think of that? You're so smart. And then to that, you're going to tell them, well, I'm just so smart. What can I say? And that's about it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut to these videos where I talk about, and it's going to say January on the top right corner, but this was literally filmed like a year ago. So yeah, let's cut to that right now. Yeah, one thing you kind of want to know is that I didn't do a lot of subtitles on purpose. And that is because, well, not only just because, you know, I can't be asked, but it's mostly, and swear to God, mostly it's just because they accentuate so many jokes when you have less subtitles, if you know what I mean. Like, there's a lot of moments here that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a few examples where the joke just hits more when the viewer's going from not expecting subtitles, like when they don't expect subtitles and then they see it, they'll start to pick up a pattern of, okay, subtitles only come up when shit is either really serious or really funny. And I do the same thing with my music. So you can see there's not a lot of like diverse change in music because I try to keep things slow and steady. Pacing is slow and steady. That's why I don't change up music too much. But when I do turn off the music, it's usually something funny. So if I have like cuts off, so for example, right here, you can see that I have this hard cut on the music. It's because there's a joke happening, right? There's some kind of joke. Like for example, when Gideon said, or maybe you could do something else you can call audible, right? That one, I don't know where that is. It's somewhere, but this is another one, right? And this is something I want to show you because having no subtitles for about 40 seconds here and then having one means there's a punchline. But better than that, I want to show you how powerful subtitles can be when you have another line afterwards. So here you said, oh, so you're a Redditor, meaning that the punchline is Redditors are pedophiles and this is proof. But then right after he says, nah, I barely got it, dude. As in, nah, I've hardly got Reddit. Like I've kind of got Reddit. I've got like 25% of Reddit, which sounds stupid. And the guy says a lot of fucking stupid things throughout the entire video. And this can kind of add on, you know, it kind of adds on to that stupid persona I've got. But it kind of changed, like the punchline will change from, oh, so you're a Redditor, meaning Redditors are pedophiles, to, nah, I've barely got it. So either way, he looks dumb. Whether that be you're a Redditor, you're a pedophile, or you've somehow barely got Reddit, right?
It has an NF whatever. So you're a Redditor? So, nah, I've really got it.
Okay, sorry, it's a bit laggy because, like I said, big project file, but listen.
That Reddit has an NF whatever. So you're a Redditor? So, nah, I've really got it, dude.
But now let's say we take this away.
You know that Reddit has an NF whatever. So you're a Redditor?
Ooh, I think my thing's broken.
Whatever. So you're a Redditor? So, nah, I've really got it, dude.
So they'll focus a lot less on the, nah, I barely got it, dude. when you take away the subtitle, which is why it's important not to have subtitles throughout the entire video, because a lot of these, when you include them, like it'll either be like, you know, you, Jid, or Skeet reading out some text that he has, which accentuates how horrible it is. You know, how the fuck can somebody say this to a 14-year-old? And it's just so strange. Or if it's not that, and people can tell, right? But if it's not that, then it's going to be something like this. So, for example, if we go to the beginning, where he says, yeah, so you hit pop some cherries. I need to change this text, by the way. But yeah, let me show you what I mean when, just one more time. Sorry, I really need to change this because I forgot to change it before. But yeah, so you can see here, these are disabled layers, right? And this means that I was planning to include them into the export, but there's a reason I didn't, and I'm going to show you that now. So at this point, he's walking into the house, and usually you'd probably put text there, which I would include text. But the reason why I didn't is because you go through a good amount of time not having subtitles. And viewers are probably thinking, what the fuck, where are my subtitles? But when they do come up, you must think, okay, so this means something. Oh, sorry. This means something, right? And then they will dart their eyes. They will legitimately dart their eyes from maybe to him or wherever the shot is, and then go straight down. And the reason why this joke works, I don't know if you picked this up, but the reason why this joke works is because he says here,
where the camera's at? Where the fuck's that guy at that comes out? He's like, you know why you're here? Huh? Or like, oh, here you go. Like, you know, there's that guy where it's like, so you're here.
Can you see that kind of contrast where he goes from, oh, where's that guy that comes out and he says, what the fuck are you doing here? And then that's what you'd expect him to say when you put the subtitle coming in, but it cuts straight to Skeet saying, oh, so here's the bottom cherries are, yeah? Which is exactly what he said he'd do when he comes out. And then we have that exact entrance later on. Funny. Now, whether you got it or not, I don't know. But please tell me if you did pick that up. But yeah, it would have been a lot less funny, or people probably definitely would not have gotten it had I enabled these text layers and then you'd read this. Because then when you do need the text and it comes out and then we just go straight to more text, then it just feels like, oh, this is what subtitles do. There's nothing to expect here. Okay. Now, it probably sounds like I'm overthinking this stuff, but I sent this to people to see their reaction, and they picked this up. So it works, and I'm hoping it worked with you. Maybe like anybody else you sent this this file to. But yeah, there's a reason I don't have. But yeah, there's a reason why I don't have subtitles everywhere, and I thought I just wanted to point that out. Now, in terms of VFX, I'm not going to make this video like 10 minutes long. By the way, you can just speed it up at the bottom right corner. Now, not a lot of VFX. The only time I ever really had to hop into like After Effects and shit was for these camera things. But apart from that, I don't really know what animations need to be added. I've done a lot of color correcting, but the problem is that the cameraman kept tweaking with the settings, whether that be audio or visual, like color settings. And it really, really, really made it hard for me to make decent color corrections. So here's another thing, right? Look at the difference between this frame. So this one's a lot less zoomed in. This one is more zoomed in. Well, this one's just zoomed in. Now, throughout this entire video, you won't see a single dynamic zoom. You'll never see a still zoom, right? You'll never see me enlarge in unless it's just like simple framing, right? But apart from that, you'll never see me like make match cuts or something like this, right? Not match cuts, but like, you know, you'll never see me make like jump cuts, right? So you can see this one's zoomed in. Now, this, well, I can guarantee you, I'm so confident that the audience will pick up on this. This will make this joke 10 times funnier, right? So I'm going to play it from a bit behind. I want you to watch the video and kind of pick up a feel of what the video is going to be like. So this is going to be 8:55. This is going to be about 40 seconds of content. So I want you to just watch for like 40 seconds, right?
It was a guy, Jay something, that he messaged me. He's like, man, I'm over here fucking this one chick, and I'm fucking the daughter and shit. And the crazy thing.
Wait, Jay, who? We need to add this into our investigation. What's his name?
Man, I gotta look it up on my phone. But like, he literally like, I mean, he dodged it, bro. But I mean, I'll go ahead and show it to y'all, bro. And he's like, I'm fucking the mom, and I fucked the daughter and shit.
But it's just you don't know his last name, just Jay.
That's why I was trying to. No, it's right here, dude. Look, I have a phone. So I can show y'all? So I can show you?
I mean, we'll get to Jay later, but
Yeah.
we need to put a pin in that.
So
Jay.
So it's some dude that he had an account, and then he's like, oh, fuck the mom, and then fuck the daughter and shit. I was like, man, what the fuck, bro? It's like,
So you didn't know, right?
I did not know that, man.
Oh, can you read that for me real quick?
I'm wondering how you're going to pull all this off. How are you going to keep me a secret until you're
Man,
18?
dude, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Your parents are going to think you might be a lesbian.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Funny. That's funny. Okay? Okay, alright. Granted, you've missed about 10 minutes of the video. So if they've gotten this far, you'll understand. But point is like, this guy yaps a lot. He makes so many excuses, right? So for him to be like, for him to just like continue to yap and not know what he's saying, who responds like that? He's reading out a text that he sent to the 14-year-old saying,
I'm wondering how you're going to pull all this off. How are you going to keep me a secret until you're 18?
Man, dude,
that's such a fun... Texting a 14-year-old saying like, how are you going to keep me a secret for 4 years, right? And his response is...
dude, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. And it's zoomed in. Funny, okay? Now, the reason it's funny is because... Okay, this is the brilliant part, right? It's not the fact that I zoomed in, it was kind of funny, right? But the point is like, there's... If you don't just do shit to do shit, if you have purpose behind the reason you do shit. So for example, there's the absence of zooms, dynamic and still zooms. The absence of zooms means that whenever I do add zooms, there's a meaning behind it. I don't add a lot of subtitles, but when I do, there's a meaning behind it. Imagine the most PG family, imagine Nick K30, right? Imagine the most PG family friendly guy you know crashes out and he just swears top of his lungs. Now, he doesn't swear. So if he does, you know it's something crazy that just happened. I don't add subtitles, but when I do, you know something crazy happened. Now, my cuts are pretty fast. So when my cut becomes slow and dead space from all of a sudden, you know that something crazy happened. That's called a deviated cut, by the way. But point is like, even the absence of things is so beautiful that having stuff means there's something, right? Like, obviously people are gonna know there's purpose when I do this, right? But if I had like a still zoom, this is my first still zoom, right? You can see the scales in 163. Okay, now if people, and my anchor point is over here, right? But if people could see that I've done this before, people could see that I've used still zooms, they would be like, they probably wouldn't get it. Maybe like it's a rare few, but I guarantee you everyone's gonna get this, or at least most people are gonna get this when they see this, because because of the absence, right? So subtitles, zoom, literally fucking anything, right? Like even if like another example, if you go through my 4-hour guide, 0 motion graphics. The only time there's a chapter coming. So if you hear any sound effects, if you see like a little pink glow, you know there's a new chapter. Source. Okay, but yeah, bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video and if you learned a thing or two, all I want you to do is simply just tell me what you enjoyed. If you want to see more stuff like this, I've got more breakdowns. I can go into more of these principles of using less to get more, how to make better decisions, or if you just want to see more stuff related to like getting clients and whatnot. So please do. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I really plan to make 2026 a big one for content. And also, quick little side plug is that if you do want to learn more of this stuff in depth, and if you want to help me do it one-to-one so you can make better videos, then I also have a link in the description where you can book a call and talk to me for a bit, so then we can see if I can help you out with your editing to eventually, you know, get bigger and better clients to make better videos. But apart from that, have a good day.